But up next on the schedule, we've got Marty Ropp. Marty has had a long affiliation with Simmental and some genetics, and he's been a wonderful asset to us in developing this educational program and pairing it with the Allied Genetic Resources program that you had yesterday, and we really appreciate your input on all of this. And Marty's going to tell us what he has learned from pigs and what we can all do with that information. So, thank you, Marty.
Good job. Did a great job.
Test. Everybody here in the back? Okay, super. So first of all, I realize that the last couple of presentations were deep. And they're deep for all of us. But I think what it says, and it says a couple things. First of all, it says genetic improvement and being in the seed stock business is not easy. And if you think it is, then you do something else. Because it's not going to get any easier, it's going to get tougher. And I think it also says that if you want help to do those kind of things, you're going to have to hire the kind of expertise that we're working with in order to get those tools, or you will be second or third or fourth or last. So let's pick it up and get that done. Get the best genetic evaluation in the world, we got a better than average chance of staying in this thing. And that's what I'm going to talk about a lot today, and this is not science. What I'm going to talk about is not science, it's history. And learn a little bit from that. And I'm hoping that as you watch this, and as I say some things, there are some things that ring with you. There are some things that you see that you can draw forward into things that you see and things that are happening now. And learn from it. Because I promise a lot of the motivation for the things I do and have done when I was working at Simmental come from my experience with pigs. So I called it What I Learned from Pigs. And I don't know if you know if that makes any sense or not, but what I learned from pigs to me was extremely important. Because, and I asked myself, why is this even important to a group of beef seed stock producers? And just if you kind of look down this slide, I think it looks familiar. The purebred swine seed stock industry, when I started in it, was large and thriving, and just an extremely successful genetics business, and had been for a significant number of years. There was opportunity for those folks to remain successful in the swine seed stock business as independents if they focused on their customers' success and focused on the industry. We all could have been around for a lot longer. But most breeders, me included, and breeding organizations ignored the opportunity to remain in the pig business. They ignored the opportunity to remain in the swine genetics business because things were good. And they were the ones that controlled everything, and they knew everything. I'll get to some time schedules later, but this is the profound thing that has absolutely changed my life and affected what I do now and what I have done. And that is that almost everyone I knew, almost all the mentors that I had growing up, almost all the people that I looked up to when I was in the swine genetics business, starting at age about 10, is gone. Lost farms, lost businesses, and now they sell used cars, and they teach third grade, and they've passed on, and their kids have gone, and they're no longer involved in agriculture. All of them went broke, except for maybe Gordon Jones. Literally, I mean, within reason, all of them. That's why this is important to me, and that's why I'm passionate about it. And that's affected me in the things that I do. In 1974, I failed my first 2 sows. Purebred Chester White sows. Hogs were 34 cents. There were 650,000 hog operations in the United States. Almost all hogs were still on dirt. Crossbreds were still considered mongrels. You can't raise mongrels, you have to raise purebreds. The rest of these hogs aren't going to work. Feeder pig markets and auction markets were powerful. States like Missouri and southern Iowa, Henry County, Illinois, sold tens of thousands of feeder pigs. And those folks had a huge influence on what happened. And there was 8 strong breed associations, all with offices, field staff, national shows, and those folks were responsible for the education to make genetics decisions for the entire swine industry in 1974. And there was no AI. Again, I said most pigs were sold through auctions. That didn't matter if it was a feeder pig or a fat hog or a boar or replacement females, all sold at auction. Very little price differentiation between pigs at harvest, even though they went through the auction barn. I mean, the difference was if you had 1 or if you had 21. There was still a relatively large distribution of packers. Not a huge number of packers, but you could find a packer in Illinois, Minnesota, and Iowa, and Kansas, and so there was at least some competition there. There was infrastructure for the pig business in every single county. There was a Mormon swine rep or 2 selling pig feed in every county in Illinois and Indiana and Ohio and Iowa. Like I said, you could buy hog feed in 50 different places in my county in 1974. We had never heard, nor would we hear for several years, about PIC or farmers hybrids or Lucy's or DeKalb. Those didn't mean anything to us. We knew what a Duroc was, a Hamp was, Yorkshire was. Those things didn't mean anything to us. Matter of fact, we kind of laughed at it first time we saw Lucy's hybrid at the Illinois State Fair. Average pig was pretty lean and muscular, pretty packer-oriented. 1974, there were a huge number of independent boar sales, like there is now in the cattle business. Huge number of independent bull sales. Pigs were registered 1 at a time. Very little data recorded in 1974. Matter of fact, through the late 70s, very little data recorded. Maybe litter size. The auctioneer would say, boys, he's out of a litter 12. That was the extent. That was all there was. Pigs paid for tens of thousands of farms in the Midwest because they provided cash flow. That's why people had it. You could sell pigs year-round. You could only sell calves a few times a year. People paid for farms by feeding corn through their hogs. Almost all family farms in independent seedstock production, that was the law of the land in 1974. And like I said, there were 650,000 of them. And I remember that there was almost 100 Chester White boars in the early February class at the Illinois State Fair when I showed the first time. And there was 100 Poland China hogs and 100 Yorkshire hogs in every class. In every class, and there were 6 classes of the young spring boars. There were tons of folks involved in the pig business. By 1984, pigs were moving into confinement like crazy, going off dirt, moving into confinement. And if you want to learn something about soundness, take a whole species of animals and move them off a dirt environment and put them on concrete and slats. And teach you something about soundness really fast. Herd size was increasing dramatically. Packers were consolidating down to a relatively few number of packers in 10 years. And these breeding companies began to become serious competition for breed associations and independent seedstock producers. But in 1984, the purebred market was still fantastic. By 84, see, I'd have been 20, I would have been selling export genetics for 5 or 6 years already at age 20. And selling about 30 boars a year. That was a heck of an opportunity for a kid. Trust me, I didn't know anything about international marketing, and I wasn't even sure why they were buying them. But I was getting a nice markup for them. Approaching record numbers of registrations from breed associations during that time. That was some of the golden age of breed associations. As far as data, there was a growing amount of data being collected by some forward-thinking folks, a little bit on stock productivity, growth, and carcass traits, but still, within reason, almost all genetic decisions were made based on phenotype. Part of that, there was a little bit of a caveat to that, and that's because when we moved them from dirt to concrete, it changed what we knew about structure, and we had to do some of those kind of things. But still, type conferences with the law of the land and the champion boar got used as much as they could get them used. Almost all corporate seed stock at this time, this is stuff that I didn't know in 1984, I promise you. It was being selected using breeding values and using indexes and using huge scale data collection at the nucleus level and at the multiplier level to make genetic decisions. Matter of fact, if you'd have told me that in 1984, I'd go, yeah, I believe you. Somewhere I believe you. The largest customer of SGI, Gordon SGI is Swine Genetics International, Gen X. Select Sires, same deal. Largest semen company in the United States at that time, 1984, because AI had started to become popular. The largest customer of purebred genetics in 1984 was a hybrid seed stock company, pig improvement company. Did you know that? Bart, did you know that in 1984? Maybe 1984, you're a little younger than me. We didn't know that. We didn't know that. We didn't know that they were uptaking purebred seed stock genetics like crazy to form their deposits. The average purebred pig that we were improving, we were making genetic improvement, was getting fat and light muscle. 1974, we were pleasing our customer pretty well, and by 1984, we weren't pleasing them anymore because we had made a lot of genetic improvement. Packers, about this time, and the years get a little fuzzy, but about this time, Packers asked commercial producers and the seed stock business, they said, bring me a more valuable hog. We're not going to kill fat, light muscle pigs anymore. They don't make us any money. You know what we said? We're going to raise the hogs we like. We're going to raise the hogs that fit our environment. We're not going to do that. So Packers went out and taught corn farmers how to raise pigs, because they didn't have preconceived notions about what you could and what you couldn't do. That was an unbelievable paradigm shift in the pig business. At that time, Packer grids began to come online like crazy. Value-based marketing was becoming, and would ultimately become, by 10 years later, would become the law of the land for all practical purposes. Health was becoming a monstrous issue, because when we moved hogs into confinement, and they were close together, disease spread like wildfire. And we had disease outside too, powder and things like that, but the number of the amount of emphasis that was placed on health by 1984 was unrecognizable compared to 74. First times I heard words like nucleus, multiplier, depop, repop. You know what's depop, repop? Get rid of all the hogs, sell the whole farm, buy new ones. Why did they depop, repop? Disease. Disease. And generations of disease that they couldn't break the cycles of. Vertical integration, proprietary genetics, Packer contracts, I didn't know anything about those things, 1984. They were happening, and they were getting started. That was my second year of college, and again, I loved being in purebred seed stock business. First two, actually almost 3 years of college was paid for by having a few sows. Can't do that anymore. But that was nice. So the breed association, what was their response to that? Because some folks in the breed associations realized there was a challenge. They realized that there were folks in the seed stock business besides themselves. They formed stages in 1985. That was EPDs. In Purdue University, I think Dr. Schinkel introduced stages, rudimentary EPDs. By 93, they had some indexes: terminal sire index, maternal line index, SPI. I kind of put their equivalent there. Terminal line index was a little like API and TI, because there was terminal value in that particular index. All the breeders I worked with didn't know that. It's because they didn't come to the meeting and they didn't see Dory and put it up there and say, look, it's in the index. 1995, after 10 years of EPDs, most seed stock producers still hadn't made one genetic selection based on it. Now there were a few. I'm not picking on everybody, but most of them hadn't. They still selected one phenotype because they knew better. 1995, Duroc, Hampshire, York, and Landrace had to go together to form NSR. Don't believe anything else. They had to. In 84 was the best years of their life. And 10 years later, they had to go into one office because they were all losing money so fast. They had lost market share so fast. So 97, the other four breeds got together. Little caveat. 99, a little program called Berkshire Gold started. I'll comment on that a couple times. Won't talk about it much right now, but in a couple slides. And by 2000, purebred swine associations in the United States were right at the edge of death. Because you knew they were, because they moved into an office like this. They moved into the NSR office, and they had 4 executive secretaries. They had 4 wings, 4 offices. And they could only have like 3 support staff, because they had 4 chiefs. And anyway, but by 2000, they realized this was dumb.
So they fired them somewhere, and they fired the other 3 and just kept 1 because they were almost dead. However, in 2000, there were still some sharp independents. There were still some sharp independents like Premier and Waldo and Comparts and Litsky's and I can't remember the names anymore. Most of them not around anymore. But they were still thriving because they actually had taken advantage of some of this technology and taken advantage of health and taken advantage of crossbreeding, and they were still kicking. They were still kicking and not doing too bad. Again, back up just a little bit in 1990, just to show you about breed associations. This was the only data I could find. 85,000 purebred litters. York's registered almost 24,000 litters in that year. PIC and decal, again, behind the scenes were getting huge, but this was among the largest and most successful time in breed association history. Berkshires were second to last. They didn't even register 2,000 litters that year. But Berkshires were getting in the meat business with that program called Berkshire Gold, which ultimately was a marginal success, but led into some other programs that other people picked up, got in the meat business with a breed of no popularity, and now, this year, they register about 12,000 litters. Little tiny success story in the middle of a gigantic disaster, because they figured out that if they could market their pork instead of just their pigs, or help their customers market their pork, they might be able to get something done. Again, this is not fabulous, but they made some growth. Association programs at this time are still based on limited winners. One breeder against another breeder in competition for business, and competition in shows, and competition in genetic evaluation, competition, leaving a small number of winners and a small number of winners and a larger and larger number of losers. Then there was zero genetic expertise on any staff. I'm going to pick on somebody, he's a friend of mine. Rick Maloney was the president of the executive officer of the American Amateur Association. He didn't know a gene from a gene with a G from a gene with a J. None, there was none. These were supposedly genetic organizations. They had no genetic expertise whatsoever. Not that he wasn't a great guy. No expertise. By 2012, you can look back at that last slide, 85,000 litters. By 2012, the MSR registered 29,000 animals, down from 80-some thousand litters. Down again, just at the edge of death. The next 10 are the top 10 states, but the next 10 states didn't even register 2,000 animals. So it's even in those 10 states, they can only register 29,000. Junior programs were by far the largest source of income and expenses in today's breed associations. Independent seedstock production had largely ceased. And I think it is interesting that one of the few independent seedstock producers that I know is in this room. Red Hill Farms. It's one of the few that I know that hadn't lost everything, because they diversified and did some other stuff. If you had to stay in the pig seedstock business only, might not be all 3 of you here today. You can tell the story better up here than I can. And we're down to 50,000 hog operations from 650,000. And who provides the genetics now? If the breed associations failed, primarily proprietary genetics from corporations and companies, many owned outside the U.S. Several of them, matter of fact, most of them have integration up and down the line, all the way through packers. Not necessarily into a package very much, but certainly through packers. Almost all hybrid lines is what you see. I'll talk about that a little bit later, but some of their lines, who was it? Was it Dorian or you, Bruce, that talked about lines a little bit ago? Must have been Dorian. Talked about lines and crossing lines. Some of their lines, and PIC, I don't remember what the last number I heard was, 60 or 70 lines that they kept. Some of them aren't very big. But those lines are far more inbred and purebred than the average cattle we call purebred. They've been inbred for 15, 20, 25 generations. They're like original breeds almost already. Cross those lines, do the things they need to do, sell you a hybrid product, sell you a composite bore, composite gills, so that you don't have to worry about heterosis that's built in there. Sounds kind of familiar. There's a few modest-sized independents, I would guess less than 50, that are selling any kind of significant number of seed stock. Maybe that's less than 20 in the whole United States. I went to the PIC website. Again, PIC is if you're going to talk about success in corporate seed stock production in pig business, PIC is where everybody sits. There's other lines, Danbreads and decalcs and whatever. But PIC is the one you talk about because it's the most successful. And it was the first one to gain huge success. I'm going to read this, and I want you to listen real closely if you haven't read it. It's right off their website. It says PIC is a subsidiary of the biotechnology leader Genus PLC. Who is the parent company of ABS? PIC's business is the genetic improvement of pigs. In the early 1960s, a small group of Oxfordshire pig farms, that'd be about like Webo pig farms, Webo, Montana cattle farms, Oxfordshire pig farms, concerned that the traditional purebred breeders were not producing the right kind of pigs for future markets. They invited a group of scientists. Who's that on there? Invited a group of scientists, Garrett and Golden and Wade Schaefer and maybe John Pollock back in the day, to devise a way to produce a better hybrid, because they were worried that the purebred producers were not producing the right pig for future markets. To produce a better hybrid and following their advice, they bought the best pigs they could find, began to breed them and improve them by process of selection. And I mean high-tech selection. Short generation intervals, maximum selection, intensity. See how bad a geneticist is? That's why I'm going to have you guys. I read that, I was like, son of a gun. That looks familiar. Again, we didn't know this. We didn't know. We were purebred seed stock production. We were in charge. We didn't know these guys in Oxfordshire were doing that. We didn't know that someday they would sell 60% of the genetics to the entire world. We didn't know that. We were in charge. The mission statement on the website says, our mission is to be the leading worldwide supplier of genetic improvement to pork chain customers. All people past you, the success of them will determine your success through innovative and outstanding genetic technology, health, and service. Those of you who have seen me talk about what seed stock producers have to offer, the only difference in what I talk about is I say you only have two things to offer. One is genetic improvement, and the other is service. Everything you do can blend into that. They put health down there because it's so important, but health is part of service. Their mission statement and idea is no different than what ours would be. But again, genetic improvement service, and they mean it, they write it down, and they practice it every day. So how in the heck did they go from 1960 or 62, whatever year it was, of Oxfordshire pig farms? How did they get there? First of all, they invested heavily in research and technology and genetic expertise. They said, we are going to turn this thing up a notch. Because I promise you, in the pig seed stock business that I grew up in, like I said, we just decided we're going to breed them like this for a while, we're going to breed them like that for a while, we're going to breed them like this for a while. And the white lines had more pigs, and the red pigs grew faster, and the black pigs were leaner, and all those kind of things. And that's just how it was, and that's how it's always going to be. PIC said, nah, that's not true. We're going to make what we want to make. We're going to use technology, invest in research, make what we want to make. Then they redefined what better was. Because we could stand around and say, there were 10 of 10 boars. Marty, what's the best one in there? I like that 16-4 boar. He's nice. He's good footed, he's big top, and I like him. Got his tail head up in the middle of his back where it should be. They redefined better. They redefined better by the ones that return the most profit to their customers. Commercial pork producers, packers, and ultimately consumers and folks that ate the pork. They redefined better. And I promise you, if you've not seen a PIC hybrid pig, then you don't know what I'm saying. You really don't understand how much they redefine better. They use service as a monster part of their business, and something called benchmarking, which I heard mentioned a couple times in the last 2 days. For those of you that don't know what benchmarking is, I'll just make just a simple example. Your bull calves last year weighed 94 pounds average. And you say, that's getting to be a little heavy for me. So you come to me and say, 94 is about all my cows can handle, I'd like to bring that down. And I say, here, you buy that bull, and that bull, I'll bring them to you. Actually, you don't get to see them. You call me and I bring them to you. And then the next year, I ask you to weigh your bull calves, and they weighed 92 pounds. Because the genetics said they were going to weigh 92 pounds, or they were going to weigh less than what you were using. And you call them back and said they weigh less, and you said, yep. So when can I bring you your next bulls? No performance data, no EPDs, no nothing. A promise, a measured promise that these pigs are going to do what they say. If you use our genetics, in 10 years, your pigs per sow per year will go up 2 pigs. And then they measure it every year, and at the end of 10 years, they send them their graphs, and it shows a little increase, and they gain 2.1 pigs per sow per year, and they said, did we do what we said we were going to do? And then the producer says, yep. Well, let's make another 10-year plan. That's benchmarking. It's different. It's different than going in and saying, my God, I can't have a bull over 91 pounds actual birth weight. That's different. Plus that, it allowed them to become proprietary with all their genetic information because you never got to see it. You never got to see the information. So they could do it like they wanted to do it and protect the lines and the genetic outliers that they were trying to make. They promised seed stock in large numbers with uniformity and health as priorities. And it worked. They were healthier than the pigs we sold, or I shouldn't say everybody. They were healthier than the pigs most of us sold. They were more committed to health techniques and things like that. And they were committed to uniformity in large numbers. The last thing they did, I encourage you to think about this, they bought business. They absolutely bought it. They went to packers, packer buyers particularly, and vets, and they paid them to sell their products. Now here was the beautiful thing. A buddy of mine, Ricky Crump, was a packer buyer for IBP at that time, now it's Tyson. Packer buyer. And he got rewarded for bringing hogs that were leaner and more muscular. He got a bonus. If instead of 53% lean hogs, he brought hogs that week that were 55, he got paid really well. Well, the PIC hogs would be 55, and the regular hogs would be 53. And then PIC would pay him $150 a boar to sell PIC boars, and $15, I think, a piece to sell Cambro 15 gilts to repop. So my boss is paying me to bring leaner, heavier muscle hogs, and then a company that has leaner, heavier muscle hogs is paying me to sell their seed stock to the folks so next year I can have even leaner, heavier muscle hogs. Talk about a win-win for PIC. And when that packer buyer went in there and said, you know, I don't love your pigs. They didn't do very good on the grid. What do I need to do? Tell you what, I'll get you set up. There'll be 20 PIC boars there next week. But if you really want to make progress, to sell those 600 sows, we'll load it up with PIC Cambro gilts. And I'll get a new boat. It was a little bit of genius. But they had a better product. They had a product that was more focused. A product that was more focused on that target anyway. So it guy won both ways. And the same way at vets. These hogs come out of quarantine situations, highest health programs available, and that changed over time a little bit. But at the time, early on, that's the way they were. And the vet said, "Hey, you got health problems? I repop." They paid the vet to say that. So anyway, they did lots of good things, and then on the marketing side, they were ruthless. Just absolutely ruthless. Oh, a lot of us would be way too proud. Huh, I'm not paying any buyer to buy my cattle. They're the best cattle there are. I'm not paying. If he knows a good cattle are, he'll like it. They said, we don't have any pride. Here's $100. Here's $100. You buy those, here's $1,000. You buy those calves, here's $1,000. The guy's like, I'll do that again. So some historic points in this situation. 1974, again, back up just a little bit, kind of summarize a little bit. First composites and the first breeding company hogs were beginning to enter the system about 74. About the same time hogs were going inside. Not exactly, but in that ballpark. Again, millions of them moving to confinement, which changed our life in big business. Immense health issues associated with that. In 1985, I'm guessing, 85, 83, 87, something. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal that says, if you want to make money in business, get in the hog business. Average rate of return 10 to 20% over the last 15 years. Investors line up. That changed our life. People got in the hog business we didn't know. People with names that we did know, but not because they were in agriculture got in the hog business. Article in the Wall Street Journal this spring. I couldn't find it. I did a little search for it, but I read it in Wall Street Journal this spring. Somebody sent it to me. Get in the beef business. Beef business is going to be good. I just went, whew. I should like that. About 1985, somewhere in there, 85, 90, grid marketing is beginning to push its way in full bore. It happened during a time of high supplies, not like now in beef business, high supplies. They could pick and choose a little bit. But here's how it went. By the time the grid marketing stuff was about 5 years old, 4 or 5 years old, the premiums and discounts were 20%. Because everybody's like, well, that was only $20 a hog. It was 20%, it's a $100 hog. So now on a fat steer, what is that? $400 premium and discount? 20%. That changed people. And then ultimately, it really changed when the packer buyer says, please don't bring those here anymore. We are not going to buy them for any price. And that's when people sold sows. But I'm out. I'm done. I'm not going to do this. Again, 1995 on the historic corn, I talked about this. Purebred breed associations have essentially failed. Forced to join 2 combined organizations. If they just would have thought about it 10 years before that, when they had a lot of money and resources and things were good, if they'd have combined then, might have had a shot. But you don't wait to combine until you both have to reach in your pocket and count quarters to see if you could, buy a pizza, like in college. Later on, 1998, fat hogs were down to a nickel. That's when I left the pig business. A little bit before that, which was just luck. I left the pig business because I actually had some warnings. And sows were free if you dropped them off. True. You could euthanize them yourself, or if you took them to the packing plant, they would take them for nothing. It changed some lives too. It got rid of the last folks that weren't integrated. Now, let me tell you a little other story about 1998 is that if you were in one of these integrated systems, you might have still been getting 36 or 40 cents a pound because you had a contract. And your competitors who wanted to remain independent and not mess with the packer because they're evil, they got a nickel. And that didn't take long. It didn't take long for them to go. The worst part about it is now they're using good genetics and they've got like 11 or 12 pigs per 11 or 12 pigs per litter. If they'd only had 5, they'd only, anyway, they'd lost a lot less money if their sows would only still had 3 pigs. So, but anyway, in the meantime, and all through this process, consolidation, integration, systems approach, and cooperation. I never hear that word because we're always talking about consolidation, vertical integration is bad. It's not bad, not necessarily. Could be hook up with wrong people. It's cooperation. These things, I promise I said these things. That's what's sad about this. All of us did. By God, I am going to raise the kind of hogs I like. You don't understand, those kind of hogs won't work here. I'm going to raise the ones I like. And we went, and those of us who judge shows, Gordon, Bart, Sarah, small skulls. Remember, small bone, because when you got a ham steak, it has small bone. You don't remember that. That was before you, and it was even before me. I remember that. Small bone, I mean, that way when you cut that ham with just a little tiny bone in it, and then that wasn't going to be any good. We got to make a big bone. Big skull. Stout featured, big skull. Well, and then somebody says, what the hell does a skull matter about anything? So somebody else got on the microphone and said they need to have small skulls. They need to be kind of fine featured. Blah, blah, blah. Well, then eventually another judging team coach took over. Now it's a judging team coach. Said, no, big skulls, we were right the first time. My point is there was no reason for big skulls, small skulls, big tails, small, no reason in the world. Lean muscular hogs do not and will not make good sows. We can't raise the kind of pigs those packers want. Those sows will not work. That was a bunch of horse crap. I was hoping that because some of the lean muscular sows are best sows that work. Some of them weren't, but it didn't have much to do with it. You can do both. Use indexes to do it with. I was going to pick on Rex Hoppus. How many of you know Rex? A couple of you met him. Rex Hoppus was the executive secretary of the Spotted Swine Association of America. And he's now a Simmental breeder. He went and did some other things in between because he went broke a pig business like everybody else. Buy your sows a spotted board. What for? That was their motto. Why? We're laughing. I'm laughing because we've done some of the same things. You just buy your sows a spotted board and everything will be great. Crossbred boards are mongrels, and they will not breed true. They won't breed true, damn it. Heard Howard Parrish. So, I don't get to tell you how many times. These company hogs are fine-boned, narrow-chested, coke bottle-headed, broken top, high top, light muscled, deer-footed, and my customers will never, never buy them because they are terrible, and I hate them. And my customers will hate them too. They're wrong. And they are. By the way, the company hogs are coke bottle-headed and light-muscled, deer-footed. They really are. It's, for those of us that grew up judging hogs and things like that, it was a shudder. See, a shudder. So what do they raise 25 pigs per sow per year? Kill 59% lean. 7, 8-inch loin eyes, even though they look like they got 3-inch loin eyes. They do a lot of things. And oh, incidentally, whole herd feed efficiency. When I was a kid, if you were under 6, you were a machine. That's pounds of pork out the door, divided by the other way around, by how much feed you brought in. Under 6, you were good. Now, if you're not under 4, you're not in business. That's amazing. That's amazing. Now, just wait a minute, Marty. This isn't cattle business. This is different. You just don't understand. You're some pig guy from Ropp, Illinois. You don't know shit. There are differences. I promise there are differences. Folks love to raise cattle. A lot of folks love to raise cattle. I know a lot of people that they were into the big business, but if you said you love the big business, they're like, you don't know if I love it or not. I make money at it. That's why I'm in it. I don't do this for love. I do this for money. There's still, just like I said in one of the slides before, there's very little price differentiation and reward for improvement still in the cattle business. If you've got big numbers, this feeder cattle marketing business, if you've got big numbers, they can be pretty damn common and top the market. If you have 4,000 of them. Still not the kind of differentiation we need, and we will have it someday, because the industry is so segmented. I don't care if I'm selling feeder calf, sometimes I don't care if the next guy goes broke, and the feedlot, I don't care if Tiger goes broke, and on and on and on and on. That's not ever it's not going to work long term, but there's still a lot of that other. Generation interval, I heard this, generation interval is too long to make big changes. Cattle business. There's something to that compared to the big business. You don't get 10 pigs per litter. You can't roll them over and farrow them at 6 months old. I understand that. Not insurmountable.
Can't repop and depop.
Right now you might be able to. Because your depop, at least. The folks with last names like the new folks in the beef business, it's not going to be such a big issue for them. Marty, we still rope and drag in the fire. I promise that is truth. In the hog business, you would never invite your friends over to rope the hogs and drag them to the fire so you had an excuse to drink beer. And lower the value of everyone that you branded because the hide wasn't any good anymore. We would not do that. We still drink beer. We get started earlier. We wouldn't do that. I'm picking on you a little bit, but there are differences. And largest beef cattle genetics organization in the world says crossbreeding doesn't work in cattle. That's different. Works in hogs, works in sheep, horses, corn, alfalfa. Apparently, some people think in cattle, the biggest group of people that sell bulls in the United States don't think it works in cattle. So it is different. Important differences, those are fun differences. Important differences, cow-calf business has historically been plagued by less than 1% rate of return on investment. That's kept serious industry out of the cattle business because there's no reason to be in it. They're like, we're going to invest in something else. We're going to do 1% with the kind of risk and the kind of investment that it takes. Many producers, including everybody in the state of Illinois, many, are willing to operate at a loss. How are you going to compete against somebody that's willing to operate at a loss? That's a tough question. Cattle production is often a function of land ownership. Steve said that. That is right. If you own the land and you can live off the cash flow, the cattle business works pretty good. If you're 25 years old and you want to borrow money and run cows, you're going to have to look awful hard. You're going to have to look awful hard. That's an issue. The huge land mass that it takes to run cows, which is still, they're working on technologies like hoop buildings and things like that to get around that. That's an issue. Folks in the commercial cattle business, they need to take advantage of the fact that they are the largest factory in this industry. And they don't do that. If you take the combined assets of the commercial cattlemen in the United States of America, it is, I'm kidding, hundreds of billions of dollars. And yet they look at Tyson and say, man, Tyson's a big company. Tyson's assets are minuscule compared to the assets backing the commercial cattle in the United States. They can take advantage of that. But as far as making change, that's an issue. Environmental diversity drives a lot more in terms of challenges and differences than it does in the pig business, because you guys can raise them all inside. And that's true. But you can still drive profit forward, doesn't matter where you raise them. So give everything up just to say that, you know, by God, I can run my cattle in the toughest country in the world and give everything up, so I don't care if the dog even likes to eat them. That's not a good business plan. Just like in pigs, 1984. Business is largely segmented but changing. Seeing more alliances form, more integration come into play. Genetic improvement is still way too unfocused, unscientific, and often unprofessional. Just like 1984 in the pig business. We didn't know it wasn't. It just wasn't. Other people were doing it, we just weren't. Development of proprietary genetics and by companies is happening right now, just like in 1984 in pigs, by companies like PIC and Genus, and a lot more. Some of them individually owned companies. Downchain participants are coming out and saying, bring us more value. Just like in 1984 when they said that to us, and we said, no, we're going to raise what we want. Traditional independent seedstock business is still thriving. Matter of fact, it's as good a time to be in this business as it has ever been. Just like 1984, the pig business. So take advantage of it. Take advantage of the profitability. Invest in technology. Invest in things that will help you 20 years from now. Because again, the difference between 74, 84, and 90 is 20 years. Just like our program last night, talking about 20 years. I raised the kind of cattle I like. Just like in 1984, I decided there's kind of people I like. So learn, you don't have to do what pigs did. You don't have to do everything. Take some of it, learn some lessons. Take some of the technology. Learn from poultry. I don't know anything about what happened to poultry. Our grandma used to have some chickens and we had some chickens. But they integrated. They worked together. Dairy did the same thing. Focused on genetic improvement, improved their product, improved their service, improved their health, improved their end product, worked as an industry, and made money and stayed in business. Pig business, all of food agriculture. All of food agriculture has planned genetic advancement programs. I said last night, green beans, popcorn, it doesn't matter, turnips. They have plans for genetic improvement as an industry to make a better product. We might be the only ones, us and maybe slaughter horses, sheep. I promise we're on a plan. There are folks that do, but in general, very much a plan, which is a great opportunity. What an opportunity if your competitors don't have a plan and you put one together. That's a great opportunity. So in summary, I don't even know how long, I'm probably going way too long, but livestock, these are things I learned from the pig business. As a kid, and learned as an extension specialist, and learned in managing a big hog operation, learned in those things. Livestock is a food business first. Keep that in mind. We eat the cattle, we eat the hogs in America. Ultimately, we eat them all. Food business first. Concentrate on that, and I think you got a best chance of being successful. Never assume that it's 1984 in the pig business, and there's going to be 100 Chester White boars in the early February class at the Illinois State Fair. If you assume that things are not going to change, you will not be right, and it doesn't matter what business you're in. I always say this, but whoever writes your check has a huge influence on what you do. When people do illogical things, you see somebody just like, oh, that's weird. Somebody's probably paying them to do it. Because people just don't do illogical things, big illogical things. They don't do it for a reason except for money. And if the folks that write your check are feedlots, then they're gonna have something to do with what you do. Or a sale barn. The sale barn guy says, don't buy his bulls anymore, buy her, or bulls anymore, buy her bulls. That's the guy that writes my check. Put it on there. So pay attention all the way down to consumers to who writes your check, because that's a good plan for the future if they're going to continue to do that. Use industry signals, logic. Use some logic. Logic's not that hard to come by, Matt. You look out in the future. It was like my example about I don't care if my dog doesn't like to eat them out here. That would be tough. And why you got it? You turn it into a hunting deal. Nobody's cattle. It's food. This is food. Make logical choices. And set long-range plans, because your 10-year-old cows in the year 2015, those matings are already made. There's no genetic improvement in your 10-year-old cows for 2015. They're in the oven and they're going to be born here pretty quick. If you're a spring cattle, fall calf, either way. It takes forever in this business. So you need to be making your genetics decision with a 10 and a 20-year plan. 20 years from now, you probably will still have daughters of the bulls that you buy this spring. Everybody goes, right. That's the kind of gravity that's in, and you need to tell your customers that when they're buying bulls and females too. There is huge gravity in genetic decisions at the beef cattle level. Last slide, thank God probably. In any huge industry, and beef cattle is a huge industry, huge. What do we kill? 32 million head a year, something like that.
100,000 a day.
Times now over $2,000 a piece. I don't know what that comes up to. I need a geneticist to do that for me. Math person. It's a lot. My point is, it's a lot. This is a huge business. In those businesses, science and science-based decisions will prevail over opinions and dogma at some point. I promise. Because it's a big business. And it's not only is it a big business, but right now, it is a big, profitable business. And profitability will drive change faster than anything else. If there's a carrot out there, somebody's going to go get that carrot. And if there's a reason to invest in the beef business, because it's super profitable, folks will, because right now, there's not a lot of good things to invest in, Jim. Don't ever confuse. I do this all the time. I wish I could learn from this. Don't ever confuse what you want to do from what you need to do. I need my own medicine for this. Concentrate on what you need to do. What you want to do will come along. A new plan for a large number of winners, and I'm talking about this for a breed association or a membership organization or a group. Plan for a large number of winners unless you want to be the only one. And if that's your goal, then go ahead and keep sticking it to everybody else until you're the only one left. And see how that works for you. I'm sweated, wet, tired, and I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Marty?
And so it's getting late. Let's keep, maybe one.
I'm curious, what was the pork board doing all this time from 84 on?
Promoting pork. They promote pork. They promote the pork industry and not necessarily who provided anything about genetics. They supported genetic research, but they didn't make any value judgments about who was going to provide it. Who's going to provide it? I sat on the National Swine Improvement Federation board at one time, when I was at Michigan State, and now the Beef Improvement Federation, so we can see that didn't work very good. Actually, it worked really good because they made folks in the pig business made a lot of money. But it was a different group. The NSIF was almost entirely smarter than me. Almost entirely. They were scientists, and they were high-level integrators and folks like that. They were folks that were serious about the pig business. It wasn't a big group like BIF, a big all-inclusive group. It was a small kind of focus group, so it was different. Yeah.
Marty, we've already seen some of this happen. When I was a kid, 90% of the cattle in Montana were Herefords. Today it's less than 10%. And I can remember when I was a kid working for a Hereford breeder. He had these Angus calves sucking those cows. And the cows were so ashamed of them they wouldn't let them suck.
That's good. Thanks, Tom Burton, for that.
I can make one point here.
Incidentally, Dr. Jones, a lot more experience in pig business. He's the one who should be doing it.
If I can make one really important point about what Marty's talked about today, and I really respect what he's done here. He talked about when the swine breeding associations began to have indexes and that kind of thing. The big difference was, and I think we could all take a big lesson from this, never was whole herd reporting encouraged, and we never ever had whole herd reporting. So really, our genetic evaluation system was started way too late. But the fact is, it never did have much meaning. Never did have much meaning like ours does. So we need to be thankful for that. And the other difference here is, Marty alluded to the fact that we never had the scientific support. We didn't hire geneticists like Wade Schaefer in the swine industry, and we never had meetings where we had the kind of programs we've had today. That was absent in the swine industry, so we were never science-based like we are here and have the opportunity to do. Gene, did you agree with that?
I forgot that Gene was sitting there.
Yeah, I had a question for you.
Gene Rouse and Hudson Durox, and maybe some others.
Marty, with all your wisdom in the swine industry, why didn't you go to work for PIC?
No, that's a fair question. I didn't, go back to the second slide, I did not enjoy watching everybody lose everything. And I wasn't going to go work for the company that helped.
I thought maybe you just didn't like to look at the pigs.
I didn't like that either, but again, I wouldn't appreciate that. That is the reason. My major professor at University of Illinois, Dr. McLaren, went on to PIC, asked me to come there, and I said, I'm going to go do something else. That wasn't my view of how things, maybe how I liked the world and had a chance to do something else. But again, it was, I'm telling you, folks like Ray Hankus, you knew Ray Hankus, most progressive pig producer, commercial genetics, on into packages, packing plants, PhD meat scientist, University of Illinois, president of National Pork Producers. I mean, a guy that had it together, one of the first, big kind of confinement operations, had his own bore stud, did everything. And they came and he found his pickup truck was just his papers with a rock on it. When they came and took everything from me, and that was a big day for me. Because that was a guy that I thought, shoot, if Ray Hankus can't make it in this, then the rest of us we got some issues. And I did not want to make this into this is not doomsday. This is 1984. Business is good. Profits are good. Find a way to take advantage of that. Invest in the future, and don't just assume things aren't going to change and assume there's not going to be a huge amount of competition, because profitability is bringing it, and like a storm. But you guys are still competitive. And if you work together, you can still be in this thing. You can take advantage of the fact that a lot of your competition doesn't even believe in crossbreeding, doesn't even believe in heterosis. Take advantage of those things. Willie?
So Genus is in the beef business today. What are they going to do different? What are they going to do the same?
I don't sit in that boardroom. But I think they'll move to proprietary genetics as quickly as they can. But one thing that they will do, and are doing, is that their base will be year cattle. That's their base. They'll sample all the bulls that they can sample, that they think they'll use wage genetic evaluation to sort the wheat out from the chaff. They'll sample those best bulls, put together some donor populations, begin to turn generations over, use the technology, the knockout gene technology and things like that, use that, DNA type everything, shorten the generate, take embryos and DNA the embryos so that they don't have to wait until the next generation happens and turn over 5 generations in the time that we do 1. Those are the things they're going to do. They'll also get involved in the feeder calf marketing business, maybe packing, maybe feedlot, maybe branded products. At one level or another, either paying people to do it or being involved in it, become integrated, go through the entire. I mean, I'm surmising. Some of that I know a little bit about. The rest of it, I'm just proposing that as Genus has more effect on that company, or as PIC has more effect through Genus, it'll become more like it. They know there's differences. They're not foolish. But I think they'll use technology and they'll invest in the future and try to beat the rest of us using the cattle that you guys started out producing. Good enough? Rob?
Marty, do you know how they manage genetic defects in their lines of their swine?
I do not. I know that.
Maybe that's a question for Gloria.
I know that there's more. The PIC has more quantitative geneticists, molecular geneticists than the whole beef industry does. And I got somebody working on it, but I don't know how to. I know they keep track of inbreeding extremely tightly and any kind of genetic defect. They've got a research population that this business needs. And I can't answer. You guys have to answer that.
Well, in your business, then, are you advocating some of your seed stock producers to start producing lines?
I think Sim Angus is a line. Multi-generation Sim Angus is a line.
The whole thing and not separate?
I would love to have 50,000 seed stock cows and have at it. It'd be fun. But we work with independent beef producers and independent seed stock producers, and those folks, as much technology as we can, as many smart decisions as we can, avoid risk and move forward. Take advantage of service, take advantage of the relationships that you have in the industry, all the things that we had back in 1984 in the pig business that we took for granted. Get involved at an integrated level, try to move forward. Try to be the best competitor that you can be. That's your only option. We got to go on. We're way over. All right, thanks, Chad.